Hello, all, and welcome to the beginning of my new podcast and other random ramblings. In these somewhat planned episodes, I wish to talk about many different topics, and of course, wish to interact with you, the audience, when I can. First of all, this podcast is under the oversight of English Convo, an English learning Discord server in which members can interact with each other in our varying text and voice channels, as well as our many events which are hosted by our amazing staff. The link is in the description, so please drop by and say hi. To start off, I'll talk a little about the host of Tenno Talks, and that is me, Tenno. I'm a Korean American and I have lived in America all my life. I'm currently trying to start my studies as a communications and English major after 1 year of engineering, and greatly drew inspiration from this server as well as the people in it. I'll now explain what Tenno Talks will cover. Since it is my show, I will talk about subjects that interest me, but I greatly urge you, the listeners, to ask questions and give suggestions on things for me to talk about, as well as feedback on how to improve your experience. I think for this episode, a general talk is better than, say, a more strictly isolated topic matter. What I mean by this is that for this episode, which isn't even an actual episode, it is called episode 0, but hey, will be a rundown on what EC is, English Convo, my story within the server, and my plans for the future, as well as for this podcast. So I'll start with the beginning of the server. It was founded back in January 2022, my memory serves me correct, by our founder Jen. And after a very short interview, I got to hear her inspiration in creating the server in the first place. She initially, and I quote here, was looking for a place to practice English. Now, speaking as myself, in my personal experience, I think talking and interacting with people is an amazing way to learn, and interaction is the best way to learn anything at all. But going back to Jen, I wondered what inspired her to create a server. You can learn in any fashion. You could read a book, you could watch movies or shows, but why a server? She could have used another program. What made her, or what caused the drive to start EC in the first place? It was because she was just, I'm going to quote her words here, she was just hired to a global company where English is a must. Before making the server, or Jen, been enrolling myself to private English classes, but it's really just once a week. So I think I want to apply it in real conversation. Then I met Discord. Of course, as you all know, the rest is history. So personally, me, Tenno, I joined a little after Valentine's Day 2022, just a little over a month since the server was made. Sunday after Valentine's Day, if I want to be precise. The desire to do so was one of boredom, but also hope. When I did 1 year of engineering at the University of Maine in Orono, it was mostly locked down due to COVID, and I found the best medium for studying and interacting with my peers was through Discord. I didn't learn anything from sitting in my room and watching lectures. Mind you, I was also paying a lot of money to be there. But this server, which was a physics class, was so Socratic and thoughtful. We were always asking questions and bouncing ideas off each other that I enjoyed it vastly more than the mundane, repetitive screenshots that our professors would provide. These talks we would have would be open. People would bounce ideas off of each other, and in short, it was beautiful. That emotion, rather the memory of the experience, is what I wish to capture once more. And that was what compelled me to try to find something I loved to do, which was reading and writing, in English, of course. And after scrolling through a bunch of servers, which to me all looked the same, I stumbled upon English Convo, or as some of us like to call it, EEC. Now, what instantly set this server apart was that our founder Jen, and I would not be remiss to say, our most proactive administrator, Raitsa, greeted newcomers by pinging them, sparking conversation. We still do that nowadays, so I ask you guys in the audience, have you been greeted in this server like that? And if so, do you remember who greeted you? That almost instantly solidified my opinion about the server, and I've stayed in here ever since. I even became a tutor and held a series of lessons on vocabulary, American history, and even some icebreaker conversations. Now, my schedule doesn't allow me to continue lessons like I used to in the past, and it also conflicts with current server events. but this podcast will be an attempt to produce some content. Now, I mentioned that I would be restarting my education, but I didn't really mention when. In the spring of 2023, I wish to enroll into my state college and hopefully embark on my career path as a communications or English major. I don't have a preference between the two and would be alright with a double major, but that's not really important. What is important is the fact that in the next 4 months, I'll either be in college or utterly destroyed as my life plans crumble around me. But anyway, focusing on the positives here, assuming I get into college and everything sort of turns out right, I'll be very, very busy and will likely be unable to participate much in the server or even play games. That's where this podcast comes in. This podcast, I hope, will allow me to talk about things I'm interested in, which will prevent me from getting stressed out about meeting deadlines and the like. Because with the podcast, I can produce and upload them by myself. I'll look a little crazy talking to myself, but that's not too weird, right? But of course, since I wish for this to be centered around EC, I'll be taking a keen interest in what you, the audience, are interested in, and will try to make specific episodes for you guys. With that said, I want to describe some ideas that I have, and you guys can let me know in the comments or my DMs about feedback or topic suggestions. I'll start and talk about some ideas that I have for episodes in the short future. I mentioned that I like to write a lot. Well, that's true. I love writing random things. Thesis papers, argumentative speeches, debate topics, fiction novels, short stories. The list doesn't end. But over the past 2 years, I really started to think and develop deep into my mind about the world and how it works. How the people that walk on the world work and think. How do we interact with each other and treat each other? And of course, how to improve, facilitate it. I liked thinking about them, but I needed to get these thoughts onto a piece of paper to really track my thoughts. And after my first paper, which was on the topic of love, I really liked what I was doing. So I wrote a paper on the idea, and specifically the word love. I wrote a book of friendships and how important they are to our daily lives. I of course have others planned and wish to make full episodes on other essential topics. I want to eventually make an episode talking about myself, and more specifically, my life and interests. But that's what I want you, the listeners, to help me with. What would you like to know about me? And don't worry, you can go all out with your questions. I won't get weirded out, I promise. Maybe. I definitely want to talk about sports, and of course, esports and games overall. The list goes on, but I'm sure you guys get the gist of it. Random topics where the only thing linking one episode to another is my voice. Well, that is all for now, and I hope to see you all for my first true episode, which I think will be on the topic of love. Starting off strong, I know. But for now, that is all from me. So wherever you are, good morning, afternoon, evening, and good night.